Okay, so, well, I'm Luis Villa. I'm based in Madrid, and I've been working in design strategy. And honestly, I don't know what is my role, because it's been like I started as a lawyer, and then I work in several waves of digital transformation. For instance, like the dot-com bubble in the 2000s, more or less 90s. So I saw some patterns. Then in the 2.0, with all this social media, all these platforms, and all these um, sorry, and all these startups that started with Facebook, with I don't know, MySpace in that moment, and after that I work in mobile, all the mobile digitalization, and all the companies moving to the mobile space. And after that, I'm working more it's more abstract, more strategic. It's about changing companies, changing organizations, and also trying to make technology fit into the human's life. No, so it's more like we call it post design or meta design, which is creating the space so design and strategy can work together, right? So this is more or less my experience. When I say that I don't know what is my profile, is because I'm totally honest. After years and years of practicing, I don't have a proper career. And I think it's something that happens to many people when they get senior, no? When you're senior, suddenly you have to ask the young people, what is your job, no? Because you don't know how to explain it. You just do things, no? And there is somebody that's paying for your work, and this is valuable. So you have to be okay with that, no? So the presentation today is like a SI. It's not a rehearsed presentation. It's the first time that I do it. It's based in some ideas, and it has also like an explorative and also artistic mindset. No, it's not about being rational or being like, these are the three keys for a strategy in a nonlinear world. It's more explorative, and it's about putting some ideas, launching these ideas, and also allow yourself to flow with ideas and also connect them in different ways. And as a final thing, I have a lot of people that say that when they go to one of my talks, if I ask 5 people what was the talk about, they say different things. So it doesn't have any goal, no? Just to share some ideas and impressions. So first, let's talk about one thing, the Goldman Sachs transformation. I don't know if you're aware of this. Let me see. Okay, you know this guy? Who is this guy? This guy is Goldman Sachs CEO. Okay, he's a DJ. Not a very good DJ, it seems, but he's a DJ. So you have all these companies that are doing very strange things. No? You have the CEOs that are becoming celebrities, not industrial experts, but also they have like another life, and they do things in a different way. And also at the same time, when they change and transform their companies, they also represent this change. No? You have this guy that is been like a DJ. He's a DJ in parties. So you see that there is a difference between the former CEOs that we know in investment banking, right? So the point is that obviously when you have a change, you always make like impact in the people and all the structure, no? And this is a quote from one of the Raipal is one of the guys that were running Goldman Sachs, and he says that Goldman Sachs is changing, is becoming a different bank. This is more informal, less elitist, less cutthroat, less Wall Street, more Main Street, more transparent and desperate, more in need of legal services, more minimally woke, and of course, much less highly remunerative. So you see how people that used to think in the old way, the industry way, are taking the position of DJ Soul, no? Which is David Solomon. And what he's talking about is that no matter how DJ D Soul is spinning this weekend, we are out. So the people are leaving because they don't think this is the way of doing investment banking, no? So this is more or less what happens when you have change in an organization, no? This is in the financial services, and we're seeing a lot of change in a lot of companies. We have to see if it's authentic or it's not, okay? So when we think, where do we come from before this? We come obviously from the shareholder capitalism, no? Which was this guy, Milton Friedman, no? The Nobel Prize, that he said that the one and only social responsibility of business is to increase its profits, no? And also give them to shareholders. In that moment, it was okay. It was the way of working. Capitalism was giving a lot of services and a lot of goods for a lot of people. It was democratizing everything. Thanks to oil and petrol, we have cheap energy to move, to have warm houses. So we have, it was, I don't know how to say it, it comes in Spanish, a son of its time, no? It was a decades, no? And also we have this. This is the happy couple. This has many the special relationship between Ronald Reagan and also Margaret Thatcher. No, these people are gone, but we are living through their legacy. No, and they were saying that you need a market with less regulation, with less taxes and less government. No, and after that, what we get is a capitalism that was very highly competitive, focus on profit and only profit, and also leaving out all the externalities of the business, no? Social externalities to society. No? We have this type of work, obviously, and this was the consulting and the strategy that we have at that moment, right? It was a male-led, no, was white male. It was very elitist. It was based in an ivory tower. It was for the CEO, and you have smart guys working there with them, and also creating a strategy that mostly in the company nobody didn't understand. No, it was like they have their own language. No, you have all these McKinsey, Bain, Boston Consulting, all these strategy companies, obviously, and they have a different way of working. You have the machines, you have the productions, and they were the experts trying to optimize the processes. No. It was also about risk avoidance, and also it has one thing that it was led by the markets. No, we said it was about competition and markets. So you were optimizing the company for each of the Qs, each of the quarters. No, so you have all the time. When you have a quarter, there is a drama in big companies. No, and also is based on different. It's not based on diversity. It's based on, as we said, 50-something, 40-something male partners leading and giving the ideas and working with a lot of junior people. No? They were in charge of obtaining information and data to be presented in the company. So you have all these long time, long cycle plans with ideal models, very abstract, and also what they have is all this type of PowerPoints, no products, no real actions. No? Execution was another thing, and it was a more blue collar task, right? So this is, if you are designers in the group, maybe you are aware of this, the squiggle, no? Of this Damien Newman. What I do just to kid with my colleagues of consultants, no, the technologists, you said, this is your problem and this is my solution. This is the way they think, no? And we decided we start with questions, no? Normally, in strategy, what you do in the traditional strategy, you have a lot of abstract models that normally they have some patterns. They are based on ideals, Platonic, right? It's like a very Greek, very rational. And then what you do is you make a plan and you try to make the plan fit with the real world. No? So in reality, what you have is a strategy that is somehow disconnected from the human reality. No? It's social dynamics. No? The people, when you put a product, for instance, people are talking about Salesforce and SAP and big data, or even having millennials in organization to change the organization. What you see is that suddenly when you launch a product, the product doesn't work as expected, no? Because it's not thought, the methodology is not thought in those terms. So this is more or less the consequence of the old way of doing strategy. So you have, when the mess started, you have a lot of suffering, people trying to adapt, a lot of unrealistic goals of sales, of performance, whatever. So it was very difficult to adapt the reality to the previous model. So one of the points that I think we're doing is that all these people didn't want to do any bad. No, it's an unintended consequence of the decisions that they have and the moment. No, and now we are creating, I think, we're making the decisions that are going to impact in the next generations. So whatever we do is going to have unintended consequences, right? So the point is that I think now we know more, we're more connected, and we're more aware of the impact of decisions. No, I think that this new way of doing strategy, which is more open-minded, more connected, and more diverse, I think it gives us a very special moment, which is a strategy that is more creative, no, and more diverse. So I think it has a cultural component, and it's also even fun to do. No, it's not about only to do processes and optimizing, but it's also been also about discovering and also playing a little bit. No? So these are obviously the unintended consequences of this optimizing strategy. A lot of waste, a lot of pollution, but at the same time it has a good side. No? We have a lot of products and services that they said, no, we have more luxury at home today than many kings in not more than 100 years. We have the problem with carbonization of the economy, and also we have a lot of waste that many times we don't even see because it's outsourced to other countries, right? And these are the consequences also of the Margaret Thatcher strategy, you know, that the Gini index, which is the index that measures the inequality in the countries, it just ramped up a lot during the Margaret Thatcher mandate and stayed there, because the point is that we interiorized that the way of doing business, the way of running business is that way, and it didn't used to be that way, right? So this changes, like capitalism is what we see now, and it doesn't have any solution, no? So the point is that there is other ways of thinking about business. There is other ways of thinking about strategy and the role of strategy in society, right? And this is the point that we're having, no? The point is that we're thinking a lot about technology, and technology is creating a lot of uncertainty and anxiety, no? So you have technology on one side changing exponentially, and on the other side, the organizations are changing logarithmically, no? And the point is that the gap is increasing if you don't do anything, no? And also you have all these celebrities. You have Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, Facebook, whatever, Google, all these companies that are putting the pressure on society, no? Because they're practically eating every industry. They started from media, from hardware, from whatever, and they're eating all the society. They're putting all our lives in their clouds, for instance, no? And we're also living with a lot of tensions, no? Which is about open and closed, collaboration versus competition, automation and control, humans versus machine, etc. No? So we are going in, this gap is creating a lot of tensions, and this is creating a lot of anxiety, no? And also a lot of problems, no? Because when people don't understand anything, they go to the simplest answer. And what they do is they have the technophobes and the technophiles, no? And you have this polarization of society, which is about winners and losers, no? And the idea is, and this is why many companies are trying now to also technology companies. They are the companies that talk most about ethics, no? Maybe a self-protection, maybe something that is authentic. You have to know about that. And also, when you have this duality, you have a lot of literature now, no? You have all this about dualities, no? Accelerate, about John Kotter, it's about how can you have a high-speed organization and a low-speed organization working at the same time, no? Human plus machine, you have all this about how it's not about confrontation between humans and artificial intelligence, but it's how to create this new collaboration, no? Partnership. You have, for instance, this Neil Ferguson book, The Square and the Tower, which is about the square is the network, and the tower is a hierarchy, right? So you have, it's about dualities, no? And this is very oriented to in the Western mindset, right? Which is about thinking about in opposition, no? And then we have, obviously, we have all this. This is I think this is the joke that I love the most in the list, sorry, in the last months, right? But this is creating a lot of anxiety, no? And this is the problem that we're having now, which is the threats that we see are too big, and we don't know how to tackle them, no? So the point is that we are seeing like getting in despair, and we're seeing like a dystopian world, no? With the news all the time recreating, and also getting our attention, just pointing our amygdala, no? Just making us afraid, which is what creates more traffic, no? And more polarization at the same time. So the point is, how can we tackle all these threats and create something together, no? And not about dividing each other, no? So we have these companies, and we have the dawn of stakeholder capitalism, right? You have all these CEOs talking about purpose, not only about making profit, no? And talking about the stakeholders. How can we include all the stakeholders into the company business, no? Making something that has a purpose, and the purpose is not only reward the shareholders, but also is taking into account the rest of the stakeholders. And we have also obviously new metrics. No, the World Economic Forum Task Force is trying to change the metrics so we can change the system. No, and if you measure a CEO with a different metrics, for instance, not only the quarter and not the stock performance, but also another metrics, you will have a different set of goals for the business. No? But the point is that you have to make all the companies play by the same rules, because you have people working in a different under different rules and another collaborating the most, you can have some problems, no? Because the field is not leveled; it's more like unequal. No? And also, as we see, there are new metrics, and a lot of people are talking about different ways of measuring success. No? You have, I think, it's very interesting. Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. Curiously, she's a woman, because I think that this is what people talk about is the female leadership. No, how these traditionally female metrics are more collaborative, more take care of other things, are more kind. No? And the masculine ones are more like a competitive. It's about being at war all the time. No? So we're finding a new set of metrics, and I think the point is that we have to give them visibility, right? And see how we can make them work as a business. So we have like also the numbers are supporting our position, right? So when we talk about all these things that we have like two orders clashing, no? And we have a lot of chaos now because the old way of doing things is gone, or is dying, and the new way of doing things didn't come yet, no? So we are still expecting, and when you have in this in-between moment, you have a lot of anxiety, no? And this is called, with Natalia, I talk a lot about this liminality, no? Which is the moments that you have when you finish something or you take a decision, and you are still expecting and waiting for the new things, no? And this is based on rites of passage, no? Which is about rituals, no? For instance, when you are going to get married, the moment that you start the wedding ceremony, you are not single anymore, but you are still not married. So you have a moment that you are through a process, no? Building your relationship and also having a lot of doubts. Should I marry this person or not? Are I going to be happy? So this uncertainty is typical of these liminal moments, no? So as an interesting thing, I think we've been through this moment before, no? This is a book about, it's a book that I have there behind me, and it's about letters from people in the Industrial Revolution. No? They were talking about change. They were totally scared, and they were worried about on one side, in this liminal moment of transformation, they have the creativity and the possibilities of technology doing good for the people. At the same time, they have the risk of dehumanizing, no, and also alienating people. No, so you have all these. Marxist movements, and you have all these philosophers talking about the capital and about the workforce, no? and the unions. No? So you have a lot of change and a lot of anxiety in that moment. No? And when we talk about change, as I said, this is a universal thing. No? This is from an exhibition that I went in Madrid. It was called Masters of Chaos, and it was about like an anthropologist exploration about the relationship between order and chaos in different cultures. No? So you have all these shamans, gurus, the carnivals, and all these things, how the people deal between the changes between the different stages in the year. So you have the equinox, and then you have the solstice, all the rituals to signify change and also celebrate that change as a community, right? And when I was looking at this exhibition, I have like a small insight that it was like a boundary man or a liminal being. My role was to help my clients go from the old order to the new order and lead them through this uncertainty, no? Through methodology, like design thinking, which is like a carnival. You have a celebration, a catharsis. There are no hierarchies. You are just talking and working together to define the vision for the future. And also you have all this moment of uncertainty, no? You have all these different processes, no, that are more internal. It's not about putting a model and make the people go through it, but it's also about being aware of the emotions, of the fears, and also the people. No? And when we talk about liminality, these are examples of liminality. No? Liminality is when you go, for instance, through a corridor and it's empty. This is when you go to a school on the weekend and you almost can hear the children shouting, but they are not there. No, you have these empty malls, no, that are abandoned. They are like liminal spaces. They are not what they used to be, but they are not yet what they're going to be. No, an airport, when you go in the last flight in the night, it's totally empty, and you have this also these liminal beings, like this hybrid people, like this, I don't remember the name of this robot, no? And also COVID is putting us in a liminal moment. We are in a lockdown, many of us, and we're thinking that the old world is dead, but the new is not coming. So you have people trying to get back, running to the old world, to the old ways of doing things, calling it the new normal, but there's a lot of people thinking about new possibilities, no? And also trying to imagine that there is a new way of doing things. Now we're talking about nature, we're talking about connecting with the people, equality. So at the same time, we have despair, and we have a sense of possibility, no? Of creativity. No? And the idea is, how can we acknowledge this and also make it work for us? No? So when you talk about liminality, the idea is that we have these different moments. No? We have the old moment, which is the old structure and the old identity that is going to die. You have a triggering event when you start this transformational moment. In a project, of a strategy project, is that a company needs to change the way of doing business. No? And then when you start the project, you have this triggering event, and you start separating from the business and trying to get perspective. No? And you start feeling, and the client, ambiguity, disorientation, anxiety, because they don't know what is going to be with that strategy. Is it going to work or not? If you are the right strategist or not? They have a lot of doubts. No? And you have a crisis, and the crisis you have also tests, no? Which is the moments of experience. No? In the case you are more designers, you have all these workshops, collaborative prototyping, and all these things that help you to do something together with the client, right? With the internal client, if you are inside of a company. No? So the point of this is, as a community, build a small community and trying to find new ways of doing things, no? And experiment and imagine and have an epiphany. No? And when you succeed and you pass the test, you have a new incorporation, no? And you resolve the situation. And the resolution is about the new identity and the new organization. No? So you're going from a process which is typical in project management. It's more with diagrams. This is based, as I said, in Victor Turner and Harold Van Gennep, which we were anthropologists. They were talking about rituals. But for me, strategy is a ritual. It's a narrative. It's a psychology. It's not only models. No, it's not only numbers. The problem is that I think many companies, they think that the strategy is putting a template with numbers and that's all. And it's not working because it doesn't take into account the human dimension, no? And the social dimension, no? Which is very complex. No? So when you think about the liminality, about, as we said, as a bold community, embracing liminality with intention, find a common purpose, and also enter in this space as a community. No? So this is, we're a team. We're one on this, right? And this happens in projects, and it should happen also politically in what we're seeing in the world right now. We can't have China, Trump, Europe, everyone playing their own game, right? Then you have to embrace chaos and uncertainty. It's about avoiding paralysis, running away, or going at it alone. Create a shared vision of the future. So you have a lot of methodologies for this, from design thinking, futures, scenarios, forecasting, whatever. And also work with threshold people, with liminal beings. These people that are expert in understanding in a different way. They work in technology terms, like in API. They connect the rational with the emotional, with the social, with individual, with organizational, right? And after that, after testing and learning, move forward with confidence, no? And together as a community. And this is more or less what we're seeing in many companies now. They're changing. They are starting to create more diverse teams, more multidisciplinary, with agile methodologies that are not afraid of failing and also they're taking the risk out, no? And I think we should put this also and make more participative of the strategies. It's not only about these people in suits and PowerPoints, but it's also creating a strategy that looks more like play and it's more like doing things, execution. It's not only about thinking, right? So regarding strategy to change, the point for me is about being comfortable in chaos, no? And this is Carl Jung. He said that in all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order, right? And I always put an example of the firefighter. When you have this, for instance, this person that has a cat the house is on fire, there's a cat inside, and then there is a person calling to the firefighter and said, hey, my cat is inside. For the woman outside of the house, maybe the house is a chaos, no? It's very dangerous. But for the firefighter, he sees and he knows the patterns of fire, and he can get inside the fire and get the cat out, right? So this is more or less when you have people that are used to work in chaos. They are able to find patterns and act accordingly, right? And the point is that we are used to thinking the West culture in terms of linear thinking. And if we think in other cultures, I think that the interesting thing is how they think more in terms of creation and destruction, yin and yang, the Ouroboros, all these things about cycles, no? Understanding the cycles, understand that from any high cycle, you have a low cycle. And how can you work on these moments, no? Take advantage, understand patterns, and also learn and evolve, right? And when we think in the strategy, in the Western mindset, it's about a rational plan. As I said before, it's about volume, it's about machinery, it's about more weaponry, fortifications, it's about having more soldiers on the ground, no? And also it's about human factors is something that is outside of the equation at the beginning, no? Suddenly they find that the human factors are the thing that make the plans fail, no? But on the other side, we have a more adaptive strategy, no? And this is the Chinese strategy. There is a book that is called about effectivity. A philosopher is called François Julien, he's French. He talks about the difference between China and the West, no? And Chinese strategy was about the Tao, no? It was about being adaptive. It was about understand the potential and flow with the potential, not make things happen or let things happen. It's not about forcing nature. It's about if you understand what forces are at play, you can detect trends and also build your advantage, because the advantage is contextual. It's something that happens. It's depending on your position. It's not about having more strength or not, because the strength could be bad depending on the moment, right? And also it's about physical and spiritual. You have to play with a lot of forces that are more diverse than in the case of the Western mentality, no? And also a very interesting thing is that it's about interaction between poles, no? It's about interdependence. In the West, we're thinking about poles all the time, polarities, no? Centralized versus decentralized, hierarchy versus network, no? In this mentality, you have to combine both, and you have to work and manage polarities, right? So for the Chinese strategists, there were no ideal models, there were no plans, but also there were no heroes, because victory was something that was logical. It had to happen because I detected all the factors that were helping me to win this battle, right? So it's a totally different mindset, no? One is making a plan based on ideals and abstract models, as we said with the PowerPoints, no? And execution with a lot of suffering. And then you have the Chinese mentality, which is about detecting and flowing with change. It's not about trying to impose change in the reality, no? But it's about adapting. So we have, let me go because we're going out of the time. So the point is that you have to understand the difference and understand the past also, no? It's not about like traditional strategy, we are here, we want to go there. It's about also understanding the past, the old trends and signals, how are developing today, and also find non-linear patterns, no? So you can have ideas and try to understand what is going to happen in the future, no? So you can imagine the future. Many of the ideas that we're seeing now in technology are ideas from the past, are adaptations or are inspired in ideas of the past. And I think there are people that do a lot of magic with history. No, they can take the right anecdote from the past, so you can see something that is very futuristic. No, so this is one of the things of the new strategy. In my view, is about the flow between the past and the ancestors, trying to understand why decisions were made, learning from their lessons, and also trying to apply it into the future. No? So you have this God, which is Janus, and he has like two faces. On one side, he looks at the past, and on the other side, he looks at the future. No? So he's the God of transitions. He's the first God of the January, the first God in the Roman calendar, right? So some ideas I'm finishing for the adaptive strategy. One is you have to know your mindset. Second, you have to manage polarities. It's not about A versus B. You have to accelerate your learning loops so you can learn and adapt much faster. You have to build the Centaur strategies, which is about how can you combine technology and human insights so you can make something that is more powerful. It's not about getting young people getting data so a senior can put it in a PowerPoint and present it. It's about how can you create loops that are faster and more agile. And also it's about communities, as we said, with a liminality moment. If you go alone, you will be scared. If you go with companion, you have a lot of perspectives, you can test, and you can have diverse solutions for the same problem, right? So you have to know your mindset. This is like a idea, metaphor, a email that I did for consulting. You have like 4 strategies, no? One is the Faber strategy, which is about the Homo Faber, is the one that is builds tools, no? It's about create artificial objects and tools. It's about technology. And the archetype here is the craftsman, right? It's the hacker, the programmer, the engineer. When they do this, they build. Then you have the Sapiens strategy, which is about the business. These are the typical of McKinsey, Boston, these more elitist consulting companies. That is about expertise, having people with a high industry and also intellectual quotient, no? And it's about understanding the processes with abstract models, no? Then you have Luden's strategy, which is about experience and innovation, and it's about play. And this is what IDEO, my former company Fjord, whatever is doing. What they're doing is playing with the client, just building these communities, no? This liminal space where there is no risk. This is like a carnival, right? There is no hierarchies, there is only play. You have the confetti, which are the post-its, and there is a celebration for innovation. No? So you don't feel at risk. You feel that you are creating something with the team. No? And also you build communities, as I said. No? This is very important. And then if we think about Yuval Noah Harari, we have the Deus Consulting, which is about transcendence. And this is about how you mix data, artificial intelligence, and humanity. You have all this singularity, all these moonshots things, and this is things that people get very scared of, no? Because this is the real liminal, which is the end of the human condition, it's the end of the human body. So, but in the end, if we think about these 4 ways of doing a strategy and we mix the right amount, because all of them work together, it's not that you have to be able to combine. When you have to think, when you are building, when you are using data, or when you're playing, it's about trying to understand what type of consulting or what type of strategy you are providing that in which moment, no? And using it in the right moment. And regarding polars, this is about polarity management, right? The point we said before is that we used to say that, for instance, human versus machine, centralized versus decentralized, plant versus emergent, whatever. The idea here is that you have to understand that each pole has benefits and overuses, no? And what you see is that, for instance, in the centralized versus decentralized, you do an and instead of a versus. It's not that you centralize, it's not because you need to standardize to scale and to manage better and to lower the costs. Because if you do that and you do it too much, you're going to get slow and you're going to be innovative. No, you're going to be a boring company. No, so the point is that then you have a crisis and you want to go to the other pole, which is okay. Let's work in small independent teams and let's be agile. No, and then after that you can start having a lot of chaos. No, you have a lot of teams doing their things. There are no standards. There are people innovating and creating. So you have again go to the centralized part. No, so you're all the time. It's not moving from one side to another, which is one of the tricks of the people that work in transformation, is from innovation through whatever. No, it's not like that, because that's a false dichotomy. It's about managing the poles. There is no solution. You have to manage all the time and move from one side to another. No? It's not about veteran, senior people and junior people. It's about how you combine both the experience of the veteran people and the energy and the ingenuity of the young people. So you have to manage all the time. It's not about doing A or B. It's about mixing both and getting the best of it. And this is the Janus in the end. You have the Janus in the middle at the same time. So this talk, as you can see, is about duality. It's about how you can flow through duality without having this anxiety. Regarding the acceleration, you need to also to create learning loops. If you go to the single loop model in the right, you have results and learnings. An action experiment is a typical thing when you are iterating a product, right? You learn, you test, you optimize, you learn, you optimize. Sometimes when you create a double loop, you go to the governing principles. Okay, these rules for the business are not working. Let's change. Let's innovate. The mental model assumptions is that you change the concept of the product or the service, right, or the strategy. And finally, the learning framework is when you do a huge pivot. You learn that your business is not going anywhere, so you learn from these results. You end up pivoting the business. So in the end, the problem with the strategy is that it was focused on governing principles and more or less. And the problem is that they were done in the C-level boardroom, right? So it was very difficult for the company to learn, because the distance between the client and the management was very, 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 very long, right? So the point is, how can we create small feedback loops so the company can learn and adapt in a different levels? And finally, to create this center, this is the ideal consultant. Is this about Kasparov losing with Deep Blue, and the idea that he said is that mediocre chess player with good AI can win a chess master, right? So the point is, and this is what many people are doing, they're trying to combine the best of technology, data, and artificial intelligence with the best of people. So you have all these platforms where you can access experts, which are people that are matched like with artificial intelligence. This is your problem. This is the best expert, which is a person. But also at the same time, you have data, and you have other platforms that help you to create, to get the information for the strategy in record time. And also you can have this information on demand, so you can react faster than the typical thing in many companies. That you have these quarter reports that you have like weeks to be consolidated and acted upon. And finally, this is the last. I went very fast. As I said, this is an SI. It wasn't rehearsed. So this is more or less how I see most of the companies. You have on one side these communities working together. This is the Fjord Berlin office at the beginning. The people, they're very young, they're very diverse. Many of them, they are working in a job that didn't exist when they finished their studies. And what they do, they're learning and celebrating. They're doing workshops. They're bringing people from other industries and sectors, from startups, because they want to keep their minds open and also inspired. So you're learning all the time. You're like a sponge all the time, absorbing information and absorbing experiences, and sharing experiences, because there are no studies and there are no formal training for this, right? So you learn by sharing. Then you have, I think that is interesting, the eSports, which I think is the future of business. It's responsive, with rich interfaces, with a lot of data, and also collaborative teams working in a purpose with missions. And I think the interesting thing of eSports is the agility, and also trying to understand what is the mindset of the new generation. How are they going to work when they get into these slow companies? You can access to WhatsApp, or you can access to social networks, or the interfaces are Excels. These people are going to have different expectations, and they are used to react and getting instant gratification, because they have access to everything through digital technology. And finally, the global, no? The global access to experts, to data, to resources, to clouds, to data centers, to whatever. So the point is that I think the old model was based more in a linear, long-term execution, but short-term thinking, which was like a pollution. And now we're going to a more collaborative, more real-time, and more connected ways of working, right? So this is, I think, where we're moving. And I think the strategy has to be able to understand that the old way is still there. Most of the business are built on this type of work, on huge structures that have to be managed, like telcos, utilities, energy, whatever. We have to understand also that every network becomes a hierarchy when it gets consolidated. You have all these booms with .com, with a lot of startups, they're collapsing. Then you have .2.0, a lot of startups, then collapsing again. AI startups, then collapsing. So it's a pattern, no? It's the yin and yang, the creation and destruction. No? And from every network that has a hierarchy, from each hierarchy you have a network. So you have to understand the polarities and be able to leverage that. No? And this is how we are now. And we have to understand how can we create a combination between this and the hierarchy and the more rational model, right? And I think it's a good mission. I think we have a lot of work to do to reimagine strategy. And the exploration of this presentation was about that. It's about applying some creative ideas and trying to get you out of the typical business model canvas or the ideas and trying to look at the work from a different perspective. And as a summary, as we said, if we want to create an adaptive strategy, we have to embrace chaos and use liminal thinking, no? And it's about knowing your mindset. If you are playing or you're executing, manage polarities, accelerate your learning loops, and also build decentralized strategies, combining technology, artificial intelligence, and human insights, and also build a communities, because without the communities, being alone, we won't get to do anything in this complex world. And that's all. I don't know how much time did I take, but we started a little bit more than expected. So I hope it was useful.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Luis. It was very, if I may speak on behalf of the participants,